You're listening to the Happy Doc Student Podcast, a podcast dedicated to providing clarity to the often mysterious doctoral process. Do you feel like you're losing your mind? Let me and my guests show you how to put more joy in your journey and graduate with your sanity, health, and relationships intact.
I'm your host, Dr. Heather Frederick, and today I welcome Jodi Scott. Jodi is the CEO and founder of Green Goo and is a seasoned visionary in health and wellness. Armed with a master's degree in health psychology and a background in pre-med, she specializes in psychoneuroimmunology, exploring the mind-body connection and the power of medicinal plants. Under her leadership, Sierra Sage Herbs has thrived, birthing multiple renowned brands, including Green Goo First Aid, Southern Butter Intimates, and the innovative Green Goo CBD line. Jodi's pioneering spirit is propelling the health and wellness industry towards a holistic future marked by passion, innovation, and global impact. Jodi, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Heather. Thank you for having me.
Why don't we spend just a few minutes with you introducing yourself to the audience and telling them your story?
Yes, so I'm Jodi. I am the co-founder of Green Goo, CEO of Spry Life. My mom, sister, and I started this company together almost a decade ago. My sister's an herbalist and a midwife, and then I was pre-med, got my master's in health psychology. And at the time, I was training resident physicians on the biopsychosocial model and incredibly passionate about the psychoneuroimmunology research that was coming out. And my sister was studying how to become an herbalist and really exploring extraction process of plants and topical therapeutics and how they may be able to provide some great, solutions to skin conditions. And in that journey, my mom is a self-taught graphic designer. We grew up in the military, and she learned at a young age that she needed to figure out computers and figure out how to code so that every time we moved, she didn't have to reinvent her career. She was my first computer teacher. So the trifecta of the three of us, as we're sitting down and we're fascinated by the possibilities with these salves. And what we found really interesting is we were living a very clean life, organic ingredients, clean personal care products, but a place where we made an exception was in the first aid cabinet. And if you opened up our first aid kit, we had Neosporin, hydrocortisone, calamine, all of these one-time use chemical-laden products. And when we started looking into this category even further, we discovered we weren't alone. The natural consumer was willing to abandon their natural ethos because they were told these legacy chemical-laden products were the only ones that could get the job done. And then even more interesting was that the conventional consumer was dissatisfied with the OTC space. And what we identified was efficacy. And here the OTC category was making products for acute skin conditions, meaning, short-lived, and saying, hey, use these products for 7 to 10 days, discontinue using if symptoms persist because it could cause toxicity, and go see your doctor. And yet people were suffering from chronic skin conditions and looking for something for long-term use, and then also just found it inconvenient to have to go visit your doctor. On top of all the chemicals and the efficacy, there was no sustainability. You use these products once, you throw them away, all these tubes being thrown in a landfill. And we thought, can we make a plant-based product that is superior in efficacy, bring a little personality, hence the name Green Goo, and sustainability to a space that had not been disrupted really since the Industrial Revolution. So Green Goo was born. And since then, we've expanded into a number of different categories in terms of pet, baby, even sexual wellness, personal care, oral care, and really bringing plant-based sustainable alternatives that perform first, but also have very clean ingredients.
And listeners may be thinking, oh, I've seen these things on the market at Whole Foods. Heather, my Neosporin, $6. The natural way to go is super expensive, and that's something I'm willing to spend my money on. And Jodi, before we were recording, I mentioned one of the things I loved about your company was that accessibility is really important to you.
Absolutely. We went to college in Austin where the first Whole Foods was born, worked in health food stores. And we identified very quickly that the natural channel really accommodated to the 1%ers. And we saw this study that came out that said like 97% of all consumers would purchase organic and natural if it was available and affordable. And that's an extraordinary number. I mean, that tells you that people have that desire, but it's not accessible. And we are B Corp, so we're continuously looking internally and externally how we purchase, how we produce, what is socially equitable in the products that we're making. And what's really interesting too is we make most of the ingredients ourselves. So we're actually bringing the plants to our manufacturing facility where we take it through the sustainable extraction process, yield high amounts of the medicinal properties from these plants, and then these unique oils go into these products. So you can't get this blend of oils anywhere else. And this process is very special. And, that in itself can really drive the cost of goods of these products. But as a family, we made a commitment to making sure that it was equitable across the board and that it wouldn't, when you're looking at Neosporin versus Green Goo, it's not the price that is influencing you.
And you mentioned how special the process was, and you were so generous sending me a box of your goodies. And I just have to say, they are very special products. And I was excited to bring you on the show because a doctoral student and everyone they know and love are simply beings in a human body that are under stress. And I was talking to you before we started recording about why I was so excited to have you on this show, because to be at your best when you're in your doctoral program, you have to be healthy. Your body has to be not just okay, free of illness, free of disease. It has to be at its best. And your products really assist in everything. I mean, the product line is pretty huge at this point. It started out with the Green Goo, which you can pretty much use for everything, right?
True. Yes. And matter of fact, our first aid is really a first aid kit on the go. So you don't just need it for cuts and scrapes. It is bug bites, bee stings, poison ivy, chafing, blisters, sunburn. Yeah. You can use it for so many things. And you never knew that you needed your first aid kit with you everywhere you went until you start bringing your Green Goo first aid with you. And then you're like, oh, this is really convenient having this with me everywhere I go. I want to come back to, I love how you embodied and communicated the importance of optimal thriving health and how that influences your performance. And I think, for my sister and I, we recognized early in our journey of nutrition and health and wellness because we were runners and swimmers. And we recognized very quickly that what we eat, how much sleep we get, how we hydrate impacts our performance. And it's been a really incredible journey learning about our skin and that role in our health and wellness. So our skin being the largest organ, oftentimes it's just been like, oh, it's just this thing that protects us from, our organs and our bones. And it's just the largest organ. And yet there's so much going on in our skin that influences our homeostasis. And this is an opportunity to put food for your skin and have a very holistic approach to your health and wellness. And I'll tell you, we call it butter up. I will put salve on from head to toe, put my bathrobe on, let my body soak it up. And the next day, my mindset is different. I feel different because you're giving yourself the nutrition that it needs through your skin and also what not to have. So phthalates being the number one producing man-made chemical on the planet. And the US produces 1 billion pounds of this alone. And so when you think of phthalates, this is leaching from our packaging. This is coming from various ingredients. These are endocrine disruptors. This is going to affect your cortisol. This is going to affect your stress hormones. So when you start thinking about ingredients, you can start thinking about how can you be a nutritive source through your skin, really in the holistic sense, but then also what to avoid. And we use a term in our home for my daughter. She's 12, and she's obviously being inundated by a lot of different, try this, try that, and I want her to have autonomy. I want her to be able to make those decisions herself and experience the connection, like getting in touch with her mind and her body. And so we use this acronym called SHAMAN. And it's kind of her North Star. So S is for sleep, making sure you're always adding to the sleep bank and recognizing that you can deplete it at times, but then you want to get back to it, like add to that bank. H is hydration. And think of this not just from what beverage you're drinking. Obviously, you want to have beverages that are going to serve you well, staying away from, sodas and alcohol and having water and other hydrating beverages, but also the food you eat. There are foods that are higher in hydration, and our body needs this to operate. And there's also the same thing with skincare. Aloe vera, calendula, rosehip oil. These are all incredibly hydrating ingredients that you can have absorbing through your skin. A is avoid. So like I was saying, avoid the phthalates, the parabens, the fragrances, these things that can disrupt your clarity, that can disrupt your endocrine and system and how things are balancing. And, avoid certain foods that may not serve you well. I mean, if you have too much of the yuck stuff the next day, you are just dragging and it's not fun. M is mindfulness. And what I've really tried to underscore for my daughter, because I think in this era, especially now that we're talking more about mindfulness and gratitude, is that you think that you need to meditate for hours to reap the benefits of meditation, and you don't. And there's a ton of science that just shows 2 minutes throughout the day can improve your clarity, reduce your cortisol, and you can have higher performance. So a lot of times I'm like, to my daughter, look at the sunrise, look at the sunset, put your bare feet on the ground, do a breathing exercise for 2 minutes, do some touch where you just really focus on touch. And that in itself, you can wire the brain to be more optimal. And there's a great book called Positive Intelligence that really segues with the physical exercises that you can do for mindfulness. And then the next A is antioxidants from the food that you're eating, but even from your body care. There are so many great ingredients that have beautiful antioxidants in them. And then that really couples well with nutrition. Have it serve you and make sure you're getting all of that nutrition, again, from your skin's care, food for your skin. And I'll add one more fun thing that I've really enjoyed in terms of getting to know the relationship with our skin and our mindfulness is telomeres. Have you ever talked about telomeres before?
You will be the first, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
So telomeres are like the end caps of your DNA. And the length of your telomeres give you an idea of your longevity. So all these things that we're doing that aren't serving our body well reduce the length of our telomeres, which then at some point, unravels the DNA and gives it exposure to disease or what have you. And what we are finding is that in your epidermis, there is the enzyme that regenerates your telomeres. And so perhaps we knew this, at some point when we look at someone's skin and say, you look so radiant, you look so youthful. And of course, body care brands have preyed on that and gave you ingredients that really don't serve you. But that being said, there may be an opportunity to provide more nutrition through your skin and avoiding certain things that can influence your longevity and, of course, your performance, your clarity, your sleep, and so forth. So it's really just kind of the tip of the iceberg, but we're finding calendula, one of my favorite plants that's in all of our products, is a plant stem cell. And there's evidence to show that it ignites the enzyme that is in your epidermis that helps improve your telomere length.
I love this acronym SHAMAN, which fits in so nicely with so many of the episodes and my podcast mission in general, which is to help people find more joy in their journey by really taking time to invest in themselves, right? Sleep, hydration, avoiding things. Everything you went through with that acronym is spot on. My audience has heard it before. They're going to hear it again. You talked about food for the skin. And I have to say, as I was using your products, it felt like the ultimate act of self-care, that I was just feeding my skin something good, something yummy. And even though usually fragrance is something to avoid when it's an additive, some sort of chemical, but every single one of your products smelled so good. And I'm super, super picky. Those of you who know me know that I'm really picky when it comes to texture and fragrant, super picky. And every single one of the things you sent me, I was in love with. I was like, I just want to take a bath in this entire product. I was putting the salve on from head to toe as well. So if you are listening to this podcast and you're thinking, I know my skin is the largest organ in my body. I know I need to pay attention to this, but I just haven't quite had the motivation, or maybe you feel overwhelmed. Like, where do I start? Where do I start? Your products are simple and so multifaceted. I mean, you could use it for so many different things. So you can just pop it in your backpack, your bag, your purse, and take it on the go and find all the wonderful gazillion uses for it. I want to take a moment to encourage you, dear listener, you are worth it. Care about your body, care about your mind by thinking about the things you are putting on every single day. And you're definitely going to want to give Jodi and her company a look.
And I think to your point too, I need low maintenance. I don't have enough time in my day. And it couldn't be any more low maintenance in terms of putting the repair on my nightstand. And then before I go to bed, just lathering my face and neck up. And I'm like, that was so great that that's all it took. And I live in Colorado where it is just so incredibly dry and you can feel that hydrating. And I do want to give a shout out to my sister, because my sister is, the ultimate stamp on the formulation process. And her olfactory capabilities is through the roof. Don't ever try to sneak what you had for lunch, because she will find you later and be like, I know what you had for lunch. She knows. And so to your point, the way that these products smell, I mean, she's also an Ayurvedic practitioner. So she's thinking about the relationship of these essential oils and how they impact your health and your mindset. But she's also very aware of that sensitivity that we may have. So she can just take these blends of essential oils and just make that experience in itself just so yummy. And it also just kind of takes that, and this is where I love neuroimmunology, where it just takes that just a level further in terms of loving yourself. When you butter up from head to toe and you put that bathrobe on and you just let your skin soak it up, again, you feel like you went to the spa, but you didn't, and it just took minutes, because most of us are putting lotion on or what have you. And of course, there's a ton of drying agents in those lotions, and you need it again, and you just don't get that same sense.
I have my tent by my bedside as well. And living in Arizona, in the mountains of Arizona, also very dry. And you're right. It's crazy to think products are marketed that are supposed to help you feel hydrated, but they're doing the opposite. And I know everyone who's listening right now has had that experience, whether it's through a lip balm or a lotion. You put it on, it feels good for a little while, and you're thinking, why am I still so dry? And your products are just so effective. I can't wait for people to try them out. You were generous to